The year was 1981. It was a time when the world was still reeling from the echoes of the past decade, and the future seemed uncertain. The place, British Columbia, Canada. Known for its breathtaking landscapes and serene wilderness, it was a region that prided itself on its natural beauty and peaceful communities. Fear hung heavy in the air, a chilling fog that clung to the towering pines and seeped into the homes of families across the province. The once tranquil nights were now filled with an unspoken dread, as if the very essence of the land had turned against its inhabitants. For months, children had been disappearing, their abductions as swift and silent as the currents of the Fraser River. Parents lived in constant fear, their hearts heavy with the weight of uncertainty and loss. Then, as suddenly as it began, the nightmare seemed to end. The community, though scarred, began to breathe a collective sigh of relief, hoping that the worst was behind them. Clifford Olson, a career criminal with a predatory gaze, confessed. His name quickly became synonymous with terror, a figure who had lurked in the shadows and now stood exposed. Olson's confession was not an act of remorse. It was a business transaction. He saw an opportunity to leverage his heinous acts for personal gain, a chilling testament to his lack of humanity. In exchange for details of his horrific crimes, Olson demanded a grotesque payment, $100,000 to be placed in a trust fund for his estranged wife and son. It was a demand that shocked the nation, a macabre twist in an already horrifying tale. The public was outraged. How could the justice system entertain such a monstrous request? The streets filled with protests, and the air was thick with anger and disbelief. How could a monster who had extinguished the lives of 11 innocent souls profit from his own wickedness? The memories of the lost children haunted the community, their faces etched in the minds of those left behind. The police, however, were in a bind. They faced immense pressure to bring closure to the grieving families, yet the path to justice was fraught with complications. They had Olson on a string of lesser charges, but the evidence linking him to the murders was circumstantial. The case was a delicate puzzle, with pieces that didn't quite fit together. Time was running out, and the families of the victims deserved answers. Every passing day without resolution was a day too long, a painful reminder of the justice that remained elusive. In a controversial decision that would forever stain the Canadian justice system, the authorities agreed to Olson's terms. It was a deal made in desperation, a choice that would haunt the nation for years to come. Clifford Olson was born in Vancouver in 1940. His was a childhood marred by neglect and abuse. He was a loner, prone to fits of rage and cruelty. By the age of 12, Olson was already well acquainted with the law, racking up a string of petty thefts and acts of vandalism. Each transgression, each brush with authority, only seemed to solidify Olson's disdain for societal norms and his utter lack of empathy for others. He drifted from town to town, leaving a trail of broken promises and shattered lives in his wake. By the time he reached adulthood, Olson was a hardened criminal, a master manipulator and a predator in the making. The summer of 1980 marked the beginning of Olson's reign of terror. His victims, all between the ages of 9 and 18, seemed to vanish into thin air. Their disappearances sent shockwaves through communities, shattering the idyllic image of a peaceful and safe British Columbia. Christine Weller, a bright and bubbly 12-year-old, vanished on her way to a friend's house. Colleen Macmillan, an aspiring artist of 16, disappeared after visiting a shopping mall. Darren Todd Johnsrud, a shy and gentle 16-year-old, was last seen riding his bicycle near his home. Each victim, a unique individual with dreams and aspirations, was reduced to a name on a missing person poster, their fates unknown. Olson revelled in the fear he instilled. He toyed with the police, sending them cryptic messages and taunting them with his knowledge of the crimes. He led them on wild goose chases, his ego inflated by the media attention and the growing sense of panic that gripped the province. The families of the victims, desperate for answers, clung to hope, praying for the safe return of their loved ones. Little did they know that their worst nightmares had already come true. Olson, driven by a depravity that defied all reason, had snuffed out the lives of their children, leaving a trail of unimaginable grief and despair in his wake. Despite Olson's attempts to outsmart the authorities, the net was closing in. He had been careful, but not careful enough. The police had been meticulously piecing together the puzzle, and every move Olson made was being watched. Surveillance footage, wiretaps, and undercover operations were all part of the intricate web designed to catch him. His arrogance proved to be his undoing. He believed he was untouchable, that he could outwit anyone who tried to catch him. But his overconfidence led to mistakes, and those mistakes were costly. A careless mistake, a discarded piece of evidence, finally linked him to the murders. Forensic experts worked tirelessly, analyzing every shred of evidence. The breakthrough came when a single piece of DNA evidence was matched to Olson, sealing his fate. Faced with overwhelming evidence and the prospect of spending the rest of his life behind bars, Olson made a chilling proposition. He would lead police to the bodies of his victims in exchange for the now infamous $100,000 payment. It was a desperate move, a final attempt to exert control over the situation. The trial was a formality. The evidence against Olson was irrefutable, and the courtroom proceedings moved swiftly. The judge and jury were left with little doubt about his guilt. Olson pleaded guilty to 11 counts of first-degree murder. His admission of guilt was a small victory for the families of the victims, but it did little to ease their pain. The courtroom became a crucible of raw emotion as the families of the victims confronted the monster who had stolen their loved ones. Their grief and anger were palpable, filling the room with a heavy, oppressive atmosphere. Their victim impact statements, filled with heartbreak, anger, and a profound sense of loss, painted a chilling portrait of the devastation left in Olson's wake. Each statement was a testament to the lives shattered by his heinous acts, a reminder of the human cost of his crimes. Olson was sentenced to 11 concurrent life sentences without the possibility of parole. The courtroom was filled with a palpable sense of relief, yet an underlying tension lingered. The judge's gavel echoed through the room, marking the end of a harrowing chapter for the victims' families. He would spend the rest of his days confined to a maximum security prison, a place designed to hold the most dangerous of criminals. The cold, unyielding walls of his cell would be his only companions, a stark contrast to the freedom he once abused. His crimes, forever etched in the annals of Canadian criminal history, would serve as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk within humanity. The media coverage was relentless, ensuring that his name would not be forgotten, but for all the wrong reasons. The deal with the devil, as it became known, sparked outrage and debate across the country. People took to the streets, their voices rising in protest against what they saw as a grave injustice. The airwaves buzzed with heated discussions, each side fervently defending their stance. Was it justice served or a moral compromise that diminished the value of the victims' lives? The question hung heavy in the air, a moral quandary that divided communities and sparked intense debate. Legal experts and laypeople alike grappled with the implications of the deal. The families of the victims struggled to come to terms with their loss. Their grief was a constant companion, a shadow that loomed over every aspect of their lives. Memorials and vigils became a way to honor their loved ones, but the pain remained ever present. Their grief, compounded by the public scrutiny and the controversial nature of Olson's capture, became a heavy burden to bear. The relentless media attention turned their private sorrow into a public spectacle, adding another layer of anguish to their already heavy hearts. Yet amidst their pain, they found strength in one another, drawing on the collective support of their community. The bonds they formed in the wake of tragedy became a source of resilience, helping them navigate the difficult path of healing. Forming support groups and advocating for victims' rights, they channeled their grief into action. Their efforts not only honored the memory of their loved ones, but also aimed to prevent such horrors from happening to others. In their unity, they found a way to move forward one step at a time. The case of Clifford Olson continues to haunt Canada. It exposed flaws in the justice system and raised uncomfortable questions about the nature of evil and the limits of rehabilitation. Olson, a master manipulator to the end, revelled in his notoriety, sending letters to the families of his victims and granting interviews from prison. His actions only served to deepen the wounds he had inflicted, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of society. The Olson file, a Pandora's box of gruesome details and unanswered questions, remained open, a chilling testament to the enduring power of evil. Clifford Olson died in prison in 2011, but his legacy of fear and revulsion lived on. His name became synonymous with evil, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones. The families of the victims, forever bound by their shared tragedy, continue to honor the memories of their loved ones, their resilience a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. The case also sparked changes in Canadian law, including the enactment of the Faint Hope Clause, which limited the parole eligibility of those convicted of multiple murders. Yet despite these measures, a sense of unease lingered, a reminder that some wounds never truly heal, and some monsters cast long shadows. The case of Clifford Olson, while seemingly closed, remains a chilling mystery. Despite his confession, many questions remain unanswered. What drove a seemingly ordinary man to commit such unspeakable acts? Were there other victims, their fates forever unknown? The passage of time may have dimmed the memories, but the scars left by Clifford Olson's crimes run deep. His case serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of innocence and the capacity for evil that resides within the human heart. And so the legend of the Beast of British Columbia lives on, a cautionary tale whispered in the shadows, a chilling reminder that some monsters walk among us, their true nature hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy.